Hey, this is Kyle Stowers, and you're listening to Fish on First.
The misery continues for the Miami Marlins. It's Fish on First live on the Foul Territory Network, presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. Usually, guys, we try to find the positives, and I'm not going to say that there's none. There is, but the shadow hanging over this team is too gloomy and too dark to ignore. We're going to talk about it. I'll talk about all these new ways that the Marlins are finding to lose in what has become a 12-game losing streak. Franchise record 12-game losing streak, beating their previous record of 11 in 2011. Where does this team go? I guess there's nowhere to go but up, right? But yeah, a 12-game losing streak, including today, game that they look to have in hand after a good pitching performance. Starting pitching in the series was actually good. That's about the only thing that was consistently good in this series. We'll talk about the rest of the bad. Yuri yesterday was good. Starting pitching today wasn't bad. Gusto even wasn't bad, but they found a way to lose all three games against the San Diego Padres to fall under 500. And it's looking more and more like they're going to be sellers as the days go on. Tough to say the least. I think I can only talk for all of us when I say that we're with you guys. We know that this is we had high hopes, especially after June, but July has been a unbridled mess for the Marlins. We'll go through it game by game, starting today. I'll go backwards, of course, as we always do. A good start, actually a really good start to this game for the Marlins. They've looked to have it in hand. Things looked pretty good all the way up until the fifth or sixth inning, I think it was, where they just kind of unraveled. It really wasn't terrible at all by your starting pitcher. As I noted before, Jansen Junk in this one, he gave up a lot of hits, but didn't walk anybody, which is a huge plus for him, and pitched into the fifth inning, actually almost got out of the fifth inning. We'll talk about what happened after that. But I thought that this was good for Junk, who was struggling coming into this one. Kevin, go ahead. Just we'll start with the positive, I guess. This is about all you can ask for out of Jansen Junk. As he continues to hold down a rotation spot. I thought this was obviously a step forward for him, and he gave the team a chance to win. Obviously, they threw it away, but a lot of hits, only the one run, though. 6 strikeouts, no walks. Talk about him first. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a short hook for Junk, regardless of how you put it. Got into the fifth, didn't even finish the fifth, but unfortunately, when he's been pitching the way that he has recently, you have to do that. I didn't watch too much of Junk's start, but he did, as you guys noted, he did keep him in it, and that's all you can ask for at this point, at this rate, with how the season's going. It definitely seemed like not a desperation move, but definitely a quicker hook for him than usual. I watched him in Houston, and he went, I think, 4 or 5 innings in that start. And at this point, you just got to do what you got to do in terms to see if you could go with your best relievers. Unfortunately, it was a weird situation where they went with Peterson, got hit in the arm. I do believe he was going to go out there for the 6th, is what Clayton said post game. So for anyone trying to think that Clayton's bullpen management is bad, I don't think it was in this case. It's just an unfortunate situation where Peterson got hit in the arm, and definitely got to take priority to go get the X-rays. Everything was good, so you should be fine. And yeah, Junk was good, solid, much better than what we've seen the last couple starts. And certainly, you were looking at a point where you're thinking that maybe Junk isn't supposed to be a starter, maybe not fit enough for it. But I guess to a certain extent, it proved some people wrong, or at least made his case to remain in the rotation moving forward.
Yeah, I think did enough, but I would agree. I thought maybe he could have at least finished that 5th inning. I know he really didn't help his case with the traffic he allowed on the bases, but I don't think he was bad. After that, oh boy, as you noted, Kevin, they go to Peterson. He only gets the 1 out because he gets hit by a pitch. After that, it's Gibson for the lefties, which was good. Zuber bounces back with a scoreless inning, which was good. And then Bacher, who had been pitching decently until this, comes in. And man, it's not good. 5 hits, 4 earned runs, does get 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs, no strikeouts. So obviously wasn't in the zone whatsoever. He gets the loss and a blown save Maybe due for this Eli for Bacher. I mean, like I said, coming into this was pitching pretty well. I think you noted it, Kevin. I don't think bad bullpen management by Clayton in this one. I mean, we can blame him for a lot of other things, but I don't think this was bad, especially if he was going to use Peterson in the next inning, even though he had lefties due up. Maybe getting away a little bit from the strict platoon situation that he had. But yeah, Bacher in this one takes a step back, and it cost the Marlins game. Like I said, Eli, finding new ways to lose. That's what's happening on this skid that the Marlins are on, which is now 12 games. So Bacher in this one, not good.
Yeah, Bacher overall this season, he's been solid, but there have been those two huge anomalies. The one that I think burns pretty brightly in people's memory is the Yuri perfect game bid. Bacher was the one that came in with an 8-run lead, and he didn't get a single out, if I remember correctly, in that performance. That was one of the worst relief outings in Marlins history, allowing 5 earned in that scenario. So that game sticks out, and they actually won that game, of course, even though I remember coming on the stream and people being furious by the decision. They did at least win that game. And then since then, this is the one that sticks out that is very comparable to that outing. And this one does end up making the entire difference between a win and a loss. He came in with a 2-run lead. He leaves with a 2-run deficit. And that's pretty much all she wrote right there. To me, I'm not going to like microanalyze Bacher's performance. It just speaks to the fact that this roster as a whole right now is just not strong enough. The fact that Bacher, I think you could actually make the case was a reasonable choice given the alternatives to pitch in that situation. There weren't multiple other guys left in the bullpen at that stage of the game that I feel were significantly better than Bacher. But the fact that he is that high up on the leverage order just speaks to the fact that these injuries have taken their toll, and they haven't made the adjustments necessary to this roster. There have been guys down in Jacksonville that I'd like to have seen given a shot over these last couple of weeks that haven't gotten a shot. So they haven't really given these guys an opportunity to show themselves as impact guys in the later innings. Yeah, Bacher is a guy that has, in my mind, just pretty limited ceiling in terms of what he could do. He's kind of susceptible to having an occasional blow up like this. It would just, I wouldn't put too much on Bacher or too much on Clayton. I think this is one that really goes down to the team itself not being strong enough. There's just not enough overall talent right now. And they have found, as you kind of alluded to, so many different ways to fall just a little bit short in these games, because as a whole, they're just, even teams that come in with very comparable records, teams like the Padres that came into the series with a worse record than the Marlins did. But the Padres, I think any way you slice it, they're a better team right now. They have more overall talent, and that kind of made the difference over the course of this weekend.
Kruchik, I want to ask you, I mean, just to end that topic really quick on the bullpen, they do have Eknes coming back. He threw a rehab outing yesterday. Looked like he had all his velo. I think he topped at 98 in a scoreless inning. I would say, Eli, I don't know, just to wrap this up, maybe one more rehab outing, and we may be able to see him back after his knee problem or whatever happened. I would think that he would come back, and it sounds kind of like maybe not trying to speak too highly of him because his major league career is only so short, but that will be a huge addition when he comes back, just considering that he can, if he has to, go multiple innings, but really, shines in that one inning role that just come in and fireball guys. So I'm excited to see Eknes back, because I do think that he is still good and can pitch in high leverage if he has to. So I'm looking forward to them getting Eknes back, hopefully after one more rehab outing. Anyways, that's it on the bullpen for now. Kruchik, I want to go to you. Just ending with what Eli said about the team not being good enough, and I would agree with it. Is there a sense of urgency in this clubhouse? You were there today, and Kevin, I know you were there, I think, the other 2 games of the series, right? So I want to go to Kruchik first, because you were there today and saw this one, and we're there for Clayton's post-game. We talk about Clayton yesterday post-game. It doesn't seem from his comments, from McCullough's comments, that there is a real sense of urgency to win games. It's like, oh yeah, skids happen. We're talking about 12 games, and he's up on the stand smiling with his arms crossed. Yeah, we'll go. We have another one tomorrow. Maybe he knows that the team was overachieving in June. Maybe he knows that, they were kind of playing with house money coming into July. But to look at this face that's on the screen after what was their 11th straight loss, and then I think even today it wasn't that much different in his post-game press conference. You could correct me if I'm wrong. But my question for you is, what is there a sense of urgency in ending this and trying to actually compete this year, or is it just another day?
I do think there's a sense of urgency, and I do think that there's a little bit of anger in the clubhouse at the situation that they find themselves in. The reality is we only get an hour with them before the game and 10 minutes with them after the game. So there's no way for me to know this for sure. But in covering this team and this specific regime for the last couple of years, you get the sense that they are so locked in on their plan, their game plan, their analytics, their philosophies, that when things like this happen, it's just, stay the course. And to an extent, I agree with that. I'm not saying you should blow up the entire blueprint, blow up the team, fire Clayton tonight. But at the same time, you can't just come in and say everything will be fine because we know who we are and we know what we're going to do. There has to be some human element to it where I need to see coach get mad. I need to see some sort of element, which we saw earlier in the season of, Peter Bendix sending guys down. Connor Norby wasn't doing well enough, so he gets sent down. Same with Gus. Gus was not doing well enough at catcher, defensively or offensively, and so he gets sent down. I like those sort of things. Right now, I'm getting the vibe that they are drinking too much of their own Kool-Aid when it comes to we trust our philosophy. Again, like I said, not saying you should blow up your philosophy because of a bad 12-game stretch, but clearly something needs to change, even if it's just temporary. Like something, you need to have some sort of human element into what you're doing instead of just saying we trust our process. We trust our process.
And just to add on to that really quick, just, I was in Houston for all three of those losses. I think it's safe to say, like, the way that this team went about it the first half of the season is certainly not the same. Like, Krutchik, you were there today and you were there yesterday. We didn't walk into the clubhouse because it wasn't really needed, but, like, it's not the same vibe. The guys clearly are feeling it. I do agree, though. Like, your manager shouldn't be smiling and trying to spin every question into a positive because at the end of the day, I hate to say it like this, and I have a lot of respect for Clayton and what he does, but you're on the hot seat, my friend. He is on the hot seat. There's no doubt about it. I don't know exactly what the contract situation is. I think it's either it ends after this season or he has one more after this, maybe a team option or whatever. But it gets to a point where if you set the franchise record for most losses in a row, something needs to be done. Something needs to change. And I understand they're going through this analytical plan that Krutchik mentions, but sometimes you have to go away from that. The way this team is mentally defeated, and you know what? This is what I've noticed, and I don't know if you guys want to touch on this too, but for example, they gave up, what was it, the homer to Rengifo. After that, you would have thought it was a funeral in there. Like, it was dead. Like, the clubhouse was dead. Everything was dead. Like, they just seemed lifeless. Lifeless baseball is being played, and that's not the team that we saw at the start of the season. The team we saw at the start of the season was a team that played small ball, was extremely vibrant, had a lot of energy. You had spark plugs in there with Sanoja and what's his name, Ruiz, and just not seeing that. It's lifeless baseball that it's lacking energy. I'm not saying the effort is there. Don't get me wrong. There is effort, and Clayton mentioned that in Houston, and I'm sure there is because they're pitching well. At least starting pitching. The starting pitching has kept them in games and has clearly been a big reason as to why they stay close in the games. And offensively, in some of the games, they have done just enough to at least stay in it. It's sometimes the bullpen and sometimes the offense. And I think I look at the Houston series, and you strike out 14 times in one game, 13 in the next. I mean, guys, this Marlins offense is one of the worst in baseball since the start of the losing streak. They rank last in almost every statistical category you could think of. They're second to last in WRC plus, second to last in last in on base percentage, last in OP, second to last in OPS, last in batting average. They've hit the least amount of homers. They've scored the least amount of runs in baseball. It really is truly the offense, but today it was the bullpen, and there's cases where it has been the bullpen this season. And when they go down, this team, you talked about the fight, the urgency, all this we spoke about the start of the season. Just you're not seeing it at all. You're seeing a lifeless, lacking of energy product when the team it goes down into a game. And you know what? Fine, but they got to find ways to get out of it because they are the reason that they are now probably going to sell, and they're going to see some of their teammates go to another organization come August 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to chime in real quick, sorry, Carver. I just want to, you guys have both touched on the hitting, which has been an issue. I mean, they still have yet to score more than 3 runs. They've scored more than 3 runs 2 times in 12 games. That should be almost impossible for a big league team, in my opinion. You guys touched on the bullpen. I've never seen a team miss a player like the Marlins have been missing Anthony Bender for however long he's been out. When you're working into the 8th inning of a tie ball game, And no disrespect, but you have Tyler Zuber out there, and that's Fulton in a one-run game. And then Bacher today, like Eli said, I like Bacher, but if he's that high up when you're going to use him in leverage, I don't see that as well. So when it comes to base running, which is also what I've been looking at, Javier Snowhawk taking off to third base and a ball hit right in front of him, that just goes, and I think they've been impressing so much. We saw it with Otto yesterday. I wouldn't say they're lifeless because, I mean, when they're up like they were today, there is some energy there, but I feel like they're all trying to fix the issue with one player, one game, and trying to get all 12 games back in a single player, a single game. So they can take it more day by day, like Jansen Johnson after his start today. I think they'll be able to find more success, but it's nothing in any department is working right now. So something has to change. I'm not going to say Clayton's on the hot seat because at the end of the day, he hasn't scored more than 3 runs twice. It's the bats he puts in the lineup, which are given to him by Bendits and Go. So that's where I'm at right now.
Really quickly to clarify, it's lifeless after they're down in the game. For sure, when they're up and they're winning, it's great. But when Hifo hits the homer in that first game, dead. They give up the late. It was dead all of yesterday, and then they give up the back-to-back homers to Machado. I think it was Jackson Merrill, dead. You gotta. I understand there's a losing streak, but if they want to win, they're gonna have to show some life and some energy because I know that's not the big part of it because there's a lot more that's going on right now that outside of that. But I'm watching lifeless baseball, and that was a big thing too in Houston.
And at the end of the day, to fix that, I'm going to go to you in a second, Sean. To fix that, I don't know if you were going to say the same thing. To fix that, it starts with Clayton McCullough. Absolutely, 100%. It starts with the manager of the baseball team in those moments where it's dead to encourage your team, to say something to your team, to, after a 10th, 11th straight loss, hold a closed-door meeting. Do something rather than sit on a stand and say, we got another game tomorrow. We'll end it. It's not just one thing. It's a variety. We'll get there. We'll end it. Every game matters, especially when you're barely clinging to a wild card spot. You have to find ways to motivate your players. Yes, at the end of the day, it's up to the players that are on the field to play the game and perform, 100%. It is up to the manager to motivate the players to perform, and he's not doing that right now. So, Sean, how does McCullough fix that, and why hasn't he?
Well, so far, I've just been doing my impression of the Marlins offense. Being super quiet, but how Clayton fixes it, I mean, I agree with you completely. I get the argument that if he came in and did something, very untrue to himself all of a sudden, like started kicking over tables in the locker room, that's probably going to, some players might be looking at him sideways thinking, what's with this guy? But no, I mean, just been in front of, with that same, placid expression, loss after loss, like these games count for something. Like that is the attitude you want when we were learning how to win and learning how to be a baseball team last year. And even earlier on in the season, but, the expectations change and the pressure, should change with it. And that's requires far more, get up and go. If that doesn't happen on camera, fine, but you really want to see that sense that the manager is not satisfied with the performance, that someone's going to be held accountable, for this. And just, you got to see a little more, feeling from them. And I think that while I don't think anything would happen, this year, this certainly is going to come up. And this is very much a situation where, his seat is getting hot in a hurry. National scrutiny's been on this team for about a month now. Half of that month is great. And this shows up on the resume too. And I don't think it balances out as a wash over the last 30 days. This is what's going to stick, and things need to turn around.
Yeah, one more word on this before we head into our first break, just about the reality about not so much how much of Clayton's fault this is, but just the reality that when you are steering a team through this kind of losing streak, I think history would tell you that the manager is scapegoated in almost all these circumstances. I'm actually going to do the research on this just to verify it. You look at the longest losing streaks in baseball this year. It's the Mets, fired their manager like a month after that. It's the Phillies, who fired their manager almost immediately after their 10-game skid. That feels like a very familiar pattern that these guys eventually, whether it's during the season or after the season, and I think in his case, it'd be a decision to be made after the season. It's really difficult as a manager to avoid the being caught in the shrapnel from that type of disaster, because when you have continuity on your roster of a certain number of players and the players perform at a certain level for a sustained period of time, especially this late into the year, and then all of a sudden it just falls apart in so many different areas. Like, it's not just one guy, as we've covered, it is every aspect of the team being deficient. We touched on the hitting and the bullpen. I'd go to, outside of this most recent series, the starting rotation just being as thin as it is. There are a couple spots where they just don't get length out of those starters. And it's the defense too. It's the base running as well. Like, every single area eroding. And when you can't like point to a particular player, and certainly as the front office, when it's a front office that came in at even before this manager did, it's as hot a seat as you could have as a manager when you have consecutive games, loss after loss after loss, all these different opponents. You're losing at home. It's very hard to get swept at home. And the Marlins that's happened twice. It's happened at the start of this streak, and it's happened most recently this past weekend against teams that they thought were really comparable to them entering those matchups. So that's kind of the direction where this is headed. Of course, there's still a long season to play, and they're still within, believe it or not, they're still within striking distance of a postseason spot. It's just so difficult to believe that this thing is going to turn around when they're just leaking oil in all these different areas. So with that, we're going to go to a quick break here from Mint Mobile, and then a whole lot more to cover on this losing streak and the team's outlook and the trade deadline. So definitely stick with us through this.
What if you can actually have it all? And I'm talking about Mint Mobile taking the premium wireless bouginess, Kratz, but then bringing it to the transparency in pricing and the affordability in pricing.
They're going to lay everything out there with a cheap bill that, you know what, everybody can handle right now.
You can even bring your current phone and your number if you're thinking about it and you're like, I'm worried about that. No worries. They have you covered because they're able to convert people all the time to the Mint Mobile way. Go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory. That's it. There's no catch. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 per month equivalent, taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Includes up to 20 gigabyte hotspot. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
Back to continue talking about this skid that the Marlins are on, possibly their outlook on what do they do at the deadline, as well as looking forward to, I think, what to me is a make or break series coming up against the Phillies. We'll preview that in a little bit. I want to talk about some positives, though. I know we've been a bit negative, and there are some positives. Believe it or not, there are some positives to talk about this Marlins team. One is Yuri Perez, who pitched yesterday. And what was this, his 4th or 5th straight quality start? Really good. And I don't think the whiff inducing Yuri Perez. It was more the fill up the strike zone and get weak contact with his fastballs, both the 4-seam and the 2-seam. Mixed in slider a little bit, but didn't really use many of his breaking pitches on a consistent basis. It was mostly sinker fastball, and did well with it, even though he didn't have all of his pitches. Gave up some early runs, but and a late run in the 7th inning. We could talk about on if he should have been out there for that inning or not, whatever. But yeah, no, I think pretty damn solid from Yuri Perez in this one, to kind of have that mental toughness to get this done, even though I don't think had all of his stuff. Kevin, you were there for this one. Another good start for Yuri, another quality start. Like I said, either his 4th or his 5th straight. Just keeps going, keeps getting better, keeps improving, even when he didn't have all of his stuff. So I thought damn encouraging from a pitcher that the Marlins plan to have around for a while.
Yeah, and you look at that start, and it's like doesn't get his first strikeout until the 6th. Like, definitely a little concerning, I guess. But like even then, like you'll take that, right? You'll take a start where he gives you 6 innings, goes into, I believe he went to the 7th. Like, this was a good start for Yuri. He's been one of the Marlins' most consistent pitchers coming out of the All-Star break. And if you look at since he's come off the IL, he's been really good. And I think a big reason for that is the sinker that he added, which he could play off the fastball and play off some of the other breaking pitches. I think that's been a big part of it. So I'm curious to see how that continues to develop. But this is a Yuri that, you're very excited and happy to have, right? This is a guy that is no longer dealing with the Tommy John, the rehab from the Tommy John, the limited pitch count, the limited innings. Like he is now also entering uncharted territory, something that I think is worth noting. I believe he's creeping up on his career high in innings pitched, or will certainly surpass that. So something to keep in mind, at least at the major league level, not combining the minors. So this is something to keep an eye out for, but they let him go 110 something pitches yesterday, so they definitely don't seem too concerned about it. Hopefully they don't do what they did with Max and now give him another day off and then it turns into a neck strain and now he's out for a long time. But yeah, I think this is the guy that you're going to count on for a very long time, this rotation. And I was going to write about, just how good Yuri has been and what he's done, because I think the sinker just plays a big factor into that. And I know Carver had mentioned the high fastball usage, which is certainly fair, but at this point, like, if it's working, it's working. We made our complaints. There was a time where Yuri actually did start throwing a lot more breaking pitches, and it certainly did help him. But if you find some sort of combo there where you're at least throwing enough breaking pitches to keep you in it and allow you to go further into a game like he has been able to do, something I think he struggled to do early on in the season, I think he'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, just the guy that can get it done in multiple ways. It doesn't have to be the whiffs all the time, right? It doesn't have to be that. And I think Yuri's coming to the realization that, you're not going to have that stuff every day. Some days you're going to have to get ground balls. You're going to have to rely on weak contact. And it's damn refreshing to see a player who I don't think 2 years ago we could have said that he would be able to do that. Yesterday he did. And I think that is very encouraging for a very young pitcher that's still growing, right? Awesome. So, as great as it is to see strikeouts, as great as it is to see, double-digit strikeouts and all the stuff that we know Yuri can do, I am equally excited to see him get 8 ground ball outs and 6 fly outs.
Exactly.
Just me.
Yeah,
just me.
I was going to go into a little bit just on the ground balls, because from the moment he debuted, what really puzzled me is like how he was so averse to getting balls on the ground. Like his ground ball rate as a rookie was 25%, and league average is in the low 40s. He was the most extreme fly ball starting pitcher in baseball in 2023 as a rookie. He took a significant step forward last year, sort of, to like 31%, which is still like near the bottom of the barrel, but it's a 6% jump. And now he's taken another 7% leap to 38%. So all of a sudden he's in spitting distance of being average in that department. I think that's a great trade-off for him to be able to get more of that soft contact, even if it's more contact overall by a little bit. The quality of contact going down the way it is, you're not going to really give up crooked numbers if you're just getting grounders the way that he has been. And it definitely stood out to me in this most recent outing. That was one of the more higher ground ball rates that he's had overall, even relative to his other starts this season. The sinker almost directly is contributing to that, being able to use that pitch as an alternative to his four-seamer. It's been a really good compliment overall. So this is the guy that I thought was going to be the best pitcher on the team this season. I think when it's all settled, he might still actually end up being the most valuable pitcher. Now that Max has gone down with his injury, Sandy has been up and down and overall very important. But Yuri overall, he's the guy that I trust most moving forward the rest of the season. I think he's going to be the guy that gives you both high upside, and as we've seen now, ever since coming back from the IL, that was a full month ago. He's just been extremely consistent during that stretch too.
Yeah, he's been really good. And like I said, getting it done in multiple ways, which is the most encouraging thing, I think. We'll go on. He's been great. So that is one positive. The other positive I want to talk about is Joe Mack. I mentioned this last time I was on here, and I'm going to mention it again. The more we see this guy play and the more he does what he continues to do in hitting, in fielding and throwing. It's just a guy that is a clear extension candidate. And, I know the Marlins don't have to do it. I understand that he's under team control until 2030, whatever. But man, this is a cornerstone player that I think as long as he is in the Marlins striking distance and as long as they are able to do it, I think this offseason they have to try to extend the player because you don't find catchers like this often whatsoever. So my question to you guys is, why not? I understand they don't have to, which is the point Isaac made last time I brought this up. And the more that you see him do what he's doing, how can you not, in my opinion, right? So that's what I think is, how can you not extend this player? How can you not at least try to extend the player in the offseason? But will they? And what does that extension possibly look like for a player that is looking more and more like JT Realmuto every day? So that's my question to you guys. Who wants to hit this one? Nate, go ahead.
You said it best, Carver. I think cornerstone is the best way to describe a guy like Joe Mack. I mean, Michael Peterson takes a ball off his forearm today. Joe Mack picks it up, spins around, and throws it to first to get out of the inning. I mean, that's just one of the many incredible things he does behind the plate. Obviously, I think beyond just throwing guys out and hitting homers and even looking a lot better against lefties like he has recently, he's just such a big culture guy to have. If you have a catcher that is so smart behind the plate, not only can pitchers trust him, but the entire team down from Rob, who's calling the pitches, can trust a guy like Joe Mack back there. In terms of what the contract would actually look like, that I completely agree with you. They should extend him. Not too sure on that, honestly. It's more of a Kevin or Eli type question. But in terms of should they, yes. I feel like it's too late on a lot of the other guys we've talked about in the past. And this would not be like a Jacob Marcy type deal like we saw last year, because at this point, not only is catcher a more valuable position than center, but Joe has been showing that he's been improving compared to Marcy when he really came out of the gates hot in August, and then steadily declined throughout the rest of the season. So if anything, Matt's trending up, and if they want to get it done, I feel like, honestly, after this next season, if it is played, it's going to be too late to extend a guy like Joe Mack. So the time is now. As soon as possible, they can get this guy, because what he's looking at, like you just said, Carver, is JT Realmuto like.
I think it's also, like, you look at this, it's what you should do, right? You need to extend someone. Win over the fan base somehow. A little bit, just a little bit. If it's Mack, if it's Yuri, which I know people say Yuri is impossible to extend, but I'm looking at all these starting pitcher extensions, and I think those are pretty fair price ranges for Yuri, who has had quite an up and down career up to this point. Most recently, Chase Burns, who got extended for a good chunk of money. And I think Yuri would be very happy to be a $100 million pitcher in this game. But anyways, with Mack, I can't remember the last time a catcher got extended. I guess Shea Langoliers maybe got extended. That's not even Drake Baldwin. So it's been a while. So
I was going to correct you. It really hasn't been that long. It's been less than a year since Samuel Basallo got his extension with the Orioles right after his debut.
Yeah.
So that was. I'll be kind of quick on this. I saw Mack as an extension candidate before the season. I thought that is when they could get the real value for him before his debut, knowing that he was definitely going to be joining the team early in the season. They didn't do that. And I think the reason why it's unusual for catchers to be extended overall is just because it's a position where the aging curve is different. Like a lot of these guys, it's not even after 30. It's like before 30. Sometimes they're like, you just don't get back to that same level you had before. And for the Marlins, they have club control over him through his age 29 season for all of his 20s as things currently stand. So what's the point of adding more years to it? It depends how you really feel about him as an overall athlete. I think he is a guy that relative to the position is more athletic than most. How you feel about the intangibles. I mean, to me, I think there's still some question about where he's going to settle in offensively, as the power is pretty good overall. The plate discipline is, I don't think, anything particularly special. The strikeout rate is considerably higher than average right now. So when you compare him to like Realmuto, I don't think you're going to get that level of consistency offensively. I do think that's a very fair comp defensively overall. And just to go back to Basallo, that was 8 years, $67 million, but he was a couple of years younger than Mack was. So that was ensuring that they get all of his 20s. And Basallo was a safer hitter. And to this point, their results have actually been very similar to this point. But I think Basallo is the one that has a much higher floor as an offensive player, and certainly more sketchiness as a defender. I think all things considered, that is kind of the area you're looking at, where that's probably what max representation we're going to shoot for. And I think if the Marlins could get anything just a little bit below that, below like anything in like the $50 to $60 million range over 7-8 years, where they had a couple more years of team control beyond what they already have, but in no particular year does it, go past $15 million. I think that would kind of be the sweet spot. So you usually don't see extensions in the middle of the year, but as Kevin referenced, we just saw a couple of them across baseball. We saw not only Chase Burns, but also JJ Weatherholt with the Cardinals, and the Basallo one I referenced. He got that one right in the middle of the season, right after he debuted. So there is some precedent for that to happen, even though it's more likely to be tabled until the offseason.
Orioles also did another extension Orioles did an extension with a pitcher too recently, but
exactly. Yeah. Kyle Bradish. Yes.
Bradish. Yeah. But you look at we had Robert Murray on too, and he was telling us like these are going to become a lot more common, these mid-season extensions, and that he said that teams are probably talking to players as we speak right now. So it doesn't come as a surprise. I also think the interesting thing is we look back at the offseason, we look at all the names that they were discussing extensions with. Marcy clearly does not deserve one anymore, unfortunately. Kyle Stowers, no. I think guess what, Yuri, they tried, didn't work. I would try to re-engage in those if I were the Marlins. Probably not going to work. So you look at this roster from top to bottom. Maybe if you want to keep Sandy a little bit longer, you do something there. Is that going to be possible? Probably not. They're probably not going to do it unless Bruce tells him he wants Sandy here and he'll extend him himself. But Joe Mack is probably the best name to look at. Like there's really nobody else. It's Joe Mack and Yuri Perez is the two 100% guys that you want to keep around and extend. Maybe Otto, but I don't see that possible right now, and I wouldn't do it either. So it's Joe and Yuri or nobody really at this point.
Yeah, Sean, I want to hit this with you. I want to get your comments on this. It satisfies kind of what we're seeing in the comments here on the screen. Like the Marlins never extend anybody. I have no faith that they will extend. Those are fair sentiments to come from fans because the Marlins don't extend a lot of players. That's not really how they've ever operated. They gave one to Stanton and then traded all of his money to the Yankees. So, it doesn't really even count. 2 years into the contract, he gets traded, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it was pretty early into the contract. Right before the big money years hit, he gets traded to the Yankees with all the money included. So, or most of it, I guess I should say. Timing has to be right. It has to be a specific kind of player, as Eli was alluding to, a specific kind of athlete. But I think even if the offense is only ever at its floor for this player, he does enough on defense to provide positive value, positive WAR year over year. And you can't say that for a lot of catchers. And I think the floor of the offense really isn't bad, and it's still becoming of a starter. I think at his worst, it's still a player that's going to hit at least 230 every year and pop at least 10, 15 home runs. That's my opinion. With the strikeouts not even being too bad. But that's my opinion. Maybe some others see that the floor could be lower on the offense, which is fair. But even if his offense is at the floor, the defense is more than enough. And I think there's more room to grow into the offense as well. Maybe he goes through a sophomore slump next year. It's totally possible. But at the end of the day, it's a young player. He's a special defender. He's a great kid, says all the right things, does all the right things, learns a lot, did everything right through the minors as a high school catcher, which a lot of times don't pan out. And Eli, you're right. Catchers age a lot differently than a normal player, which is why it's so rare to see, a catcher get a huge extension or a big extension. But I think that this player will have no issue whatsoever sticking there through his prime years. I really don't think there's too much of a worry. It's not even a guy who was really injured at all through his minor league career, knock on wood. So, he's durable. The arm is amazing. The pop times, you see them every time a caught stealing. There's a reason why Kevin publishes the pop time, because anything under 1.9 is incredible. This is a clear-cut extension candidate, in my opinion, even though he's a catcher. But I want to get your comments in terms of where are you on this? Are you okay with him being an extension candidate as long as if he's a catcher? What are your comments on this one?
Yes, absolutely. They should extend him. Again, we've hit it with the floor and the skills he's had on defense, the transformative impact he had on this team. Now, granted, we're going through it right now, obviously, but still the way the defense, overall, turned around there, the confidence you saw every pitcher, on the roster having him right from the get-go. That's something this team, desperately needed and still does. And that's not going, he's not going to age out of that. The arms, going to play for, quite some time. Scott, got some power in his bat, so that, but even, if he doesn't have to get better to be worth the money that we were talking about, for that, Basayo, type extension. And to the fan point of just needing to see someone extended, I definitely do think that is a factor. I think all the names we brought up it's the short list of candidates that you can do that with. And this is a fan base that desperately needs to see that. And this is certainly a piece that they can and should build around. I would have no problem with it at all based on what he's done. I think it's different than Marcy last year. This is a different situation, than that. That was relying a lot on a really impressive offensive August. For that, Mac, it's about what he's done on defense all season. And they should capitalize and extend him as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll hit this related point on it really quickly before we go to break about what does it mean for Augustine Ramirez, who was the primary catcher a lot of last year, and is catching pretty regularly down in Jacksonville right now, but for reasons that I don't think any of us fully understand, because it's not really turning a corner. I highlighted this really nice caught stealing he had today, but that was like picking a needle out of a haystack, because so many of his defensive plays have been low lights since he's gone down there. He's been so error prone. Like, he's never going to stick at that position at the big league level. And I think that's an interesting name to just keep your eye on over the next 8 days as a stealthy trade candidate in Gus. The fact that he's just, I don't know what they're going to do with him, really, given that they are still working him out as catcher. And I don't know who they're trying to showcase him for when it comes to that. And even though it's important to have some sort of depth at this position, as Carver kind of like mentions, like Mac's track record of durability these last 4 seasons has been pretty impeccable. He hasn't been hurt since 2022. They're just not going to need to invest very much in that catcher position moving forward outside of Mac. So Gus is somebody that maybe a change of scenery candidate, which is hard to believe given where we were a year ago, but the past year has gone pretty poorly on both sides of the ball with him. Just a name to keep in mind, even though it would be selling low from the Marlins perspective. So with that, we'll hit this quick ad break, hear from FanDuel, and then the rest of the show on the other side.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans think you know who's hitting a homer today? Well, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. You've got nothing to lose and a lot to gain, and don't forget, you can make a free pick every day all season long. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home for home runs. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com/podcast. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball.
21 plus select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DC, Kentucky, Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Call 1-800-MY-RESET. 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050 Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY New York. Call 1-877-770-7867 Louisiana.
Back for the rest of what has been a jam-packed but roller coaster of emotions, I guess I would say, on the show so far. I think we've found the good as we can in what has been a very tough stretch for the Marlins. Hopefully coming to an end this week against the Phillies at home. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to get to 2 more things with you guys. We mentioned him already a couple times, Jacob Marcy. So Jacob Marcy, per your reporting, Kevin, is now, as we heard, I think in Houston, it was said that he won't play every day against right-handed pitching. He is now, succumbing some of those reps to the guys like Conine and Ruiz, who I think have earned it for sure. Both of them have played extremely well. We've already started to see that happen. And we're also looking at the impending return of Owen Casey, who yesterday we heard is continuing baseball activities. He's been able to run, hit, and do defensive work with no issues, that per MLB.com. So I guess we probably aren't too far away from Casey probably going on a rehab assignment, maybe to Jupiter, maybe to Jacksonville, who knows. But my question for you guys is looking probably a little bit down the road. I know we're probably like at least a week to 2 weeks out on this, but Marcy's gotten the whole season to show improvement. We know that the Marlins still have faith in him. I think that there's reason to still like the player, given that he is a damn good defensive center fielder, a true center fielder. He holds that position down very well. It's just that the bat has been a black hole. There's no getting around it. I guess this series he got 2 hits in the 2 games that he did play. I think he pinch hit today too, I think he pitched hit today as well. Didn't get anything, but for lack of a better term, he struggled very badly all the way through the year. So he's shown glimpses at times of kind of battling through it, and then it's kind of just fallen off, and he hasn't really been able to stay consistent. So a AAA stint worked for Harry Berto. Would it work for Jacob Marcy? I think we are of the opinion that it probably would. The Marlins have yet to make that move, but will they do that when Owen Casey is ready to come back, and can they live through manning center field without Jacob Marcy if he continues to struggle for the next week to 2 weeks. Kevin, go ahead. I'll let you hit on this. What happens when Casey comes back? Is Marcy the guy they send down, or does something else happen?
I think by the time Casey's back, we should be pretty much very close to either the deadline or right after it. So I think we should have some moves made there that maybe open up a spot for Casey just based off of trades. And I say this because I don't know why. I just have a feeling they're going to move on from Griffin Conine. They don't talk about him as much as I think they should. They don't. It feels like they have their guys, right? And that's something that we've said with Braxton, with other guys in the organization. And I think specifically just looking at this Casey situation, I think he'll just take Conine's spot if Conine is moved. I'm not saying he is. I'm not reporting that they're looking to move him, but I don't know. I just have a feeling they will. When it comes to Marcy, yeah, I think this is step one in let's see what you got in this type of situation, and we'll go from there. If he continues to struggle, if it doesn't go well for him, they'll just have to send him down because there's this guy named Cam Canarella who continues to rake and continues to prove that he is more than ready. And I know the defensive aspect and the base running aspect for Marcy specifically is something that they would be losing because he's second on the team in stolen bases, and he is by outs above average, a pretty good defender in center field. Now, this was not a very good series for base running, and Marcy was at the forefront of that. And you even look at Houston, not very good either because he got thrown out a couple times. So at this point, you just have to assume it's something mental with him. I really don't think he is a terrible baseball player. I think he's a serviceable guy when he is a decent player. I just think maybe the pressure got to him this season a little bit too much in terms of like, hey, you're going to have to step up, be the guy, play every day. And I think this is something they should have done at least a month ago, this transition off of being an everyday guy against right-handed pitching. And this is something Eli had noted. Like Marcy has started every single game against a right-handed starting pitcher until that game against Houston where they started Ruiz, and rightfully so. Ruiz deserved it. He's been probably the best acquisition for Peter this offseason, at least on the position player side. It's a very low bar, but he didn't meet it. And overall, he's probably number one or number two, right behind John King or ahead of John King, however you want to assess that. But yeah, Ruiz deserves it. Conine, I do believe, deserves it a lot too because he has been good. And I look at Conine as one of those solid players that just plays well, good overall defense. He has a great arm in the outfield, and he's just a consistent hitter. He doesn't need to hit 20 bombs, 25 bombs. He hits 15 of them. You're happy with a good on base and a solid approach, which I think Conine has certainly evolved from what we saw during his AA days and even early AAA, where he was striking out almost 40% of the time. He's a much different player from that, and I think that's a really good thing. And unfortunately, that's why I think teams would probably target Conine as a trade option when it comes to the deadline. Arizona needs an outfielder. Phillies need an outfielder. There's a lot of teams that need an outfielder. I'm going to come out with an article on a team that I think Conine could end up in because I think we have unfortunately reached a point where the Marlins we're looking at this from a seller's perspective. We just dropped one for Hicks. Conine is up tomorrow. So yeah, Casey I think just would take Conine's spot if there's a trade. Now, if there's no trade, yeah, you got to send down Marcy if he continues to struggle or whoever continues to struggle at this point. They have Graham Pauley on the roster. Maybe they could just get rid of Pauley or Leo Jimenez if he continues to struggle. Maybe there's a name I'm forgetting. Oh, Navarreto. Holy shit. He's still on the roster. They could send him down. So there are guys they could send down. Yes. Over a Marcy before Marcy. But if they are so adamant about keeping Leo Jimenez, Graham Pauley, and Brian Navarreto on the roster, then yeah, I guess Marcy would get sent down for Casey.
Yeah, it took you a few minutes, but you kind of got to where I was originally on this, that I don't think they're necessarily related one-on-one. Casey coming back soon and Marcy potentially going down. But without going like too granular on that stuff, because as you said, this is coming almost certainly right after the deadline. We think the Marlins are going to make some sort of moves, and they're going to be very open-minded. So we're not going to try to predict the moves and all the related stuff. But just on Marcy, the fact that it's kind of a combination of the physical and the mental. And the physical is pretty obvious to me on several fronts. One, he's just not getting to his power the way that he did last year. The reason why he was such a breakout player in the organization last season is because all of a sudden he's showing average power conservatively, and he showed it at the big league level in that small sample size as well. And this year as a whole, without even looking it up, I think he has 3 homers because I can remember them because every time he hit one, it made me feel like, hey, he might be turning the corner, and yet he hasn't. So the power going away, the plate discipline going from being elite, that was what we were excited about as well when he got called up elite plate disciplines and going, okay. That's a pretty big difference in terms of his player value. You mentioned the base running, maybe a little bit physical there, but that's almost all mental. The fact that he's just making really weird decisions. The indecisiveness he had during that play on Saturday's game really stood out in a way that, this guy's just not in a great frame of mind right now. And we touched on his role change. There was that game in Houston where he didn't face a righty. And then today was another one of those days where they're facing a right-handed starting pitcher and not a very good one in Walker Buehler at this stage of his career. And yet he's on the bench. I chuckled in our group chat when, in late innings, in the 9th inning, he finally comes off the bench to pinch hit against Mason Miller. I don't know. That's just one of those other head scratching ideas. You take this guy that is completely lost as a hitter and you just throw him into the fire against Mason Miller. maybe this will snap him out of it. And that did not work out either. So the combination of the physical going wrong, the mental going wrong, not that he necessarily deserves to get sent down. As you noted, there are guys on this roster that I think are less equipped to help this team win games in various forms. But this is about getting Marcy right for his future. This is a guy that I think they still have as a very significant part of their long-term plans. You want to get him right. And in his case, I think he would benefit from some time off, some time out of the major league level. So even if they don't like any of the alternatives down there, whether it's Andrew Pintar or Matthew Etzel, any of the other potential call-ups that they can make, Kemp Alderman, who I think they like a lot, but obviously can't help in center field whatsoever. Like, even if there isn't a suitable replacement, this is a team that's not really going to be in full contention anyway, you just got to do what's best for the player long-term. And so for him, even though I'm not expecting it, I would be on board if they gave him just a little bit of a breather down in AAA to reset things and try to salvage this season.
In addition to Kona and Kevin, there's also Heriberto, who could, not saying he could be a trade candidate as well. So if they do move an outfielder, you don't have to
look at yesterday. Conley early got traded for Curtis Mead. I think Eli had a great tweet, or he told us in the chat, like that's a great way to look at it, right? So definitely something to consider there too with Burt. I know Eli had Emerson Hancock in that trade for Burt. I know someone named, I wouldn't even say Ethan. Someone on Twitter said it was a very bad trade, but whatever. We move on.
Yeah, well, no comment on that. Anyways, we'll go on. I agree. We'll see what they do at the deadline. I don't think we're quite near the position where we're going to guess at the moves that they make. I think we're going to probably wait at least this Phillies series before we primely label the Marlins as sellers. Maybe they sweep the Phillies and Padres lose some games. Padres leapfrog the Marlins today, and maybe the Marlins can get back some positions in the standings for the wild card, which they're now 3 games out of. We'll see. But I think this series is a make or break series as we go into previewing the division rival Philadelphia Phillies, who are doing much better under our old friend Don Mattingly. So firstly to you guys, we're seeing them come back. This team, I think we all knew was kind of too good to struggle the way that they were under Thompson, and Mattingly has the ship kind of righted, and they're doing pretty damn well, as you can see right now, since the last time the Marlins saw them. So, Phillies coming into town. First question to you guys, Sean, I'll go to you first. Is this make or break for the Marlins? Do they have to at least take 2 of 3 for them to still say they have a chance this year?
Well, I thought this series was make or break, honestly, against the Padres, but assuming that I was wrong about that, then yes, absolutely. They would need to, especially with them having their 3 best horses going in the rotation. Didn't really get any luck, there. Unlike they've had, when they were doing well, they caught a lot of lucky breaks. This is going to be the best that the Phillies could offer, for this lineup. So if they lose this, then that's it. That's too much ground to lose. It's another team that is ahead of you in the playoff race that you'd be seeing if you made the postseason. And if they don't show some magic quickly, then this is it.
Agreed. Definitely. It's going to take a pretty prime effort from the Marlins. They're going to have to be at their best because this team's good. So my question to you guys, Eli, I'll go to you. What's the difference? What's been the difference other than Donnie managing? I don't know how much he has just in this, but after he took over, this team has been pretty good. And we knew that the lineup was too good to fail for too long of a time. What is the difference in your mind in this Phillies team since not too long ago this year?
I'm sort of going to reject the entire premise of this question and go lean on something I've told you guys. Disagreements are healthy. Like, this is a Phillies team that did turn things around for a significant period of time in the first half of the season, but they're kind of limping into town against the Marlins. We're talking as the Sunday night baseball game gets underway. Maybe they win it and they have better vibes coming into it, but they're going to lose this series against the Yankees after losing their previous series. I'll throw up the standings again. Look very closely at the separation. There's only 4.5 games between the Marlins and the Phillies. If the Marlins shockingly sweep the Phillies, that's 1.5 games separating them. They've lost 4 in a row. They have a negative run differential on the season, -18. The Marlins have a better run differential this season than the Phillies do. And most of this season at this point has now been managed under Donnie making his return. I just want to point to the one particular area where the Phillies continue to be immensely disappointing. Offensively, they're really not in any better condition than the Marlins are as of late. The Phillies for the season overall, this really shocked me. They are 29th in baseball in WRC plus. Their offense is the second worst offense in baseball for the whole season. This is the Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper offense. And outside of them, it's a lot of zeros and a lot of inconsistent bats. So it really comes down to that with this Phillies team. They've been carried. If you've been, trying to focus on the positives, it's their pitching. Like the high end starting pitching that they have really is amazing. Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, and now old friend Jesus Luzardo. That is the best 1, 2, 3 in baseball. And I don't think you can really come up with a close second right now. So that is what has been very good for them. The Marlins are going to have to face 2 of those 3-headed monsters. They're going to have to face Wheeler in the opener and then Luzardo in the finale. But offensively, this is a very challenged Phillies team. This is not a deep roster whatsoever. One deep lineup. And that is why, I guess I'll tease it, the fact that Kevin kind of mocked Griffin Conine potentially going to the Phillies. The Phillies could use a lot of help in that particular area, where a guy like Conine would be a huge upgrade for them, even as a platoon player potentially. They need a lot of help offensively if they're going to be a serious World Series contender, because right now they are just lopsided in terms of talent. So much concentrated on the pitching side and pretty good defensively, but hitting, any way you slice it, they've continued to be pretty deficient in that area.
That's one thing I wanted to note, and I wish. And I was going to tell you, I wish Eli would just, and that screenshot of the standings, just go maybe 1 or 2 more slots down, because you look at the Phillies, they have a negative 18 run differential. Their expected win-loss, they're supposed to be the Marlins. They're supposed to be 51 and 54, so they should be kind of where the Marlins are right now, where Miami, which is barely holding on to their +2 run differential, is at 53 and 53. So the Marlins should right now have lost 11 straight and they're 500 or whatever, 10 straight and they're 500, and they're somewhat in it, but yeah, I didn't actually realize how close the gap was between the Marlins and the Phillies. And I guess Miami has a pretty decent opportunity. It's a TBD for the third game. I'm assuming it's just going to be Ryan Gusto starting that game. But yeah, you have Sandy in the middle game, and then you have Tyler Phillips tomorrow, who I thought Phillips was fine against the Astros after, its first 2 rough innings, and then he really settled in. And I'm sure he's got some revenge on his mind after what happened in Philly the last time, that it did not go very well at all. So yeah, I didn't realize how not bad the Phillies have been, just how reliant on Harper and Schwarber and I guess that 3-headed monster they've been this year.
Yeah, catching a team that's better on the road. Their pitching is what you have to get past. Agreed, 100%. I think it's been up and down for them. I don't think it's been all good. I don't think it's been all bad. Yeah, their run differential would tell you that their offense struggles. Their 700 team OPS would tell you that their offense struggles, which it does. So it's kind of weird to see a Phillies team that plays in that ballpark kind of lean on pitching. It's kind of what they do. And they have damn good pitching. So like I said, they're better on the road. They're 7 games better on the road, 29 and 22. I think they are on the road. So coming into Miami against the Marlins team that is down and out, for lack of a better term. So I think it's going to be an interesting series. It's kind of good to what Eli, you said, that they come in having lost their last 4, potentially their last 5 if they lose this game to the Yankees. So maybe the Marlins are catching a team. Something's got to break somewhere. Maybe it's against the Phillies, who haven't been great, especially in terms of their offense, but they kind of, like I said, lean on their pitching. How much does Donnie have to do with that? I think talent's always been there for this team. I think eventually, we're halfway through the year and I'm saying this, I think eventually their offense should come back to life, given how much star power they have in it. And shout out to my boy Gamer Inconis, by the way, stud from FAU. Glad to see that he's with the team. Anyways, it's kind of the battle of 2, in the Marlins case, a bad team right now and a just so team that just happens to be leading a division. So, it's going to be an interesting time in Miami this coming series. As you noted, Sean, the Marlins will get their 2 big guys and then a TBD. Do we know who's going to fill that spot, or is it still kind of up for grabs?
I'm assuming it's Gusto.
Gusto.
It's going to have either him or Bach or some sort of, or Dax, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
Dax
Someone
just
who-
50 pitches, so 49
a white
pitches,
flag.
whatever it was. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not confident as we head into prediction time, but we'll get to that here in a second. Eli, you got a last ad to play or play the video?
Mm-hmm. Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida, and then prediction time. Friends at Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida, they present all of our podcast efforts here on Fish on First. Miami's best jet ski and boat adventures. Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida, with 6 jet ski locations and over 120 boats. There's something for every style and every budget. Ride jet skis right in front of the downtown skyline and Ferris wheel, or book your own private boat starting as low as $300 with the captain included. Bring your drinks to your friends and enjoy the water your way. The boat is completely yours for the time you reserve it. The reservation based only. To book, call 305-990-2192 or check them out online at sfjetskirentals.com. Make sure to use our promo code FISHONFIRST, and that gets you a 10% discount off your next booking. Again, that's 305-990-2192 or online at sfjetskirentals.com.
Back.
This is prediction time.
That's my prediction, but who knows?
There you go. Back for prediction time. So will the bleeding finally stop, or will the Marlins, cringe when I say this, go to a 15-game losing streak? It is possible in this series. What will happen? What do we think? Do the Marlins finally get a win? Sean, Millerick, go ahead. Your prediction for the series and your MVP.
I have the Marlins winning 1 game, so not the 0-15, but only 1 game in this series, and Kyle Schwarber will be the series MVP.
Kevin?
Streak will be snapped, but unfortunately the Phillies take 2 out of 3. Bryce Harper's been so good, so I'm just going to go with him as a series MVP.
Be brief on this one. I don't think the Marlins crack through for a series win. I do think they get 1 game, though. So the Phillies win 2 out of 3, and Kyle Schwarber is the MVP. And Eli, the founder, to wrap us up.
I'll go with the Phillies winning 2 out of 3. As I kind of elaborated, I'm not too high on them as a whole. It does line up fairly well that they get 2 of their top 3 starting pitchers going in this series, and that the Marlins are still going to have to wait a little while longer to get these real reinforcements back from the IL. Maybe they surprise us and look for a spark, do some sort of sexy roster moves to try to get the energy up, bring up a guy that's performing well in Jacksonville. But outside of that, I just think it's still kind of flat, a team that is still finding all these different ways to lose. So I think they win 1, they snap the streak in this series, but end up still falling even further behind in the wild card race. So for series MVP, I'll go with Trey Turner. He has been heating up quite a bit as of late. They needed something for the Phillies to help out Schwarber and Harper in that offense. And Turner, after getting off to a terrible start, has come around offensively to be closer to the guy that they've been counting on. So I think Trey Turner will pepper the Marlins with a lot of singles and doubles over the course of the series and help manufacture some runs against them that will end up making the difference in this 3-game set.
A perplexing team coming in, the Phillies, as we said, with their run differential, but they've still gotten it done, and they're still in the division race against the Braves. So obviously still in the wild card. So again, I think they have too much star power not to be really damn good down the stretch under Donnie. So yeah, that's our show for today. I think a lot of us are still doom and gloom, but maybe the Marlins surprise us and get 2 out of 3. We'll be there to cover it, as we always are, on the site, in person in this series. See if the Marlins can finally end this horrid stretch, which, man, we found the positives in it, but they're few and far between. So I think that'll be our show for now. Maybe we're talking about the Marlins being pure sellers on our next show later this week. Maybe they bounce back and surprise us, and we still hold on to hope. We'll see what happens after this 3-game set against the Phillies. We'll see you guys a little bit later on in the week. Thanks for all the questions, all the support, all the feedback on Twitter. It's fun to engage with. We appreciate everything, and we'll continue to do our best to cover the Marlins, good or bad. For now, that's it. think I speak for all of us when I say, please go Fish, get a win.